Welcome, golf fans, pursuers of knowledge in the almighty dollar. This is your golf guru bringing you the 2023 Wyndham Championship. This is my Before the Lock show where we go over all the information you need before locking in those final DFS lineups or even maybe some final bet thoughts. I'm going to cover ownership projection. Got some other additional information I want to share with you, some new models that I've been running. And with all that said, give me about 20 minutes and we will cover all of it to help you get maybe an edge on your lineups. And first and foremost, thanks for stopping by. Okay, so I'm calling this some random information, just some things that I was either reminded of or did not know. And so let's start off with Ben Griffin. And real quickly, if you did not know, Ben Griffin actually is a local, lives about an hour away, played at the University of North Carolina, and had a pretty nice showing here last year, coming in fourth. And the reason why I also bring this up is he is 68th in the FedEx Cup standings. They had a little quick interview with him yesterday on the Golf Channel. Of course, he's entering this contest without really worrying about supposedly where he's at. But I've always told you guys that are kind of right on that bubble tend to be maybe a little more aggressive at times. Maybe it doesn't show up in the first couple rounds. But, you know, I wasn't really on him. I didn't pick him from a DFS side, and I have not bet him. But I wanted to bring all that information to you just in case maybe you want to play him. Again, from a recommendation, maybe I will plug him in a lineup or two. We'll see how the tournament goes. Maybe I bet him live if I see something. But I just wanted you guys to know there's not a whole lot of locals in this tournament that I know of. But Ben Griffin is one. Of course, I already brought up Alex Smalley, who, of course, is a member here and is someone that I'm on. So just want to pass that. And then, of course, someone that's probably not, I don't know, out of sight, out of mind. Of course, Brandt Snedeker had, really good results in the past, but coming off an injury where he had a really crazy surgery. Not sure if you heard it or not, but somewhere in his sternum, he had like a broken bone or something that was going on that was causing pressure. Long story short, they had to do this crazy operation, only did it a couple times ever, where they took I don't know if it was a piece of his rib or his hip, I forgot now, to replace it. But supposedly he's, I don't know if he's pain free, but he's definitely in less pain than he was. And the reason why I bring up Brandt Snedeker is that, he's won here twice. His last one was in 2018. And also he holds the course record shooting a 59 here. And also what was a little shocking, if you were watching the 3M pretty closely, in round one, he shot a 64. And I believe I think round two, he shot a 68. And where I'm going with all that is that, funny enough, he had a ton of birdies. I think he even had an eagle, but also had a lot of bogeys. So from a scoring perspective, if you had a Brandt Snedeker in a showdown, especially in round one or round two, definitely could have helped. And also a very cheap play. I believe he's somewhere upper 6,000, low 7,000s from a DFS perspective. But you can see his record over here. Of course, he missed a cut in 2021, didn't play in 2022, again, due to the, injury that he was dealing with. But as I mentioned, if you go back to 2018, he had a win, a third, a fifth, one back in 2007. I mean, kind of a lot of top fives, top tens, or some missed cuts. Now, again, Brandt Snedeker, not in the best of form that he was, but when he gets hot with that putter, with that kind of pop stroke that he does, watch out. And one of the big defenses on this course, on a Donald Ross, are the greens. As I mentioned in the previous show, quite a bit of slope. A lot of the greens work from back to front. So, everything's kind of trying to fall off to the front of a typical Donald Ross course. So anyways, that was just some random information that I didn't talk about in the preview show that I also wanted to include for you. Let's talk a little weather, because there is a possible T-flight advantage that we're going to go over. And so again, I always state I never build all my lineups with that in thought, but you might want to build a lineup or two depending, maybe in the full classic or whatever you're doing, just in case it comes to fruition. And in short, what you can see is we got a lot of possible, thunderstorms and showers throughout the tournament, 3 out of 4 days. And even on Saturday, they're stating you've got winds saying, Thursday, and this is coming from the PGA Tour, their weather report person. And it looks like they have a lot of humidity, which, if you live in anywhere that in the summer, that can have these pop-up thunderstorms. But then they got a cold front that's supposed to come in. I believe they were saying either Thursday night, Friday, which is also going to cause some volatility. And so if we go to Wind Finder, and you're going to want to pull up Oak Hollow Lake, is the one I'm using. Before, there's also like this Piedmont Airport. You can use either or. There's nothing like right in Greensboro, but I'd say estimated it's like 10, 15 miles away, this point that I'm using, which is fine. It's also on the west, which of course weather typically moves west to east. And what it's showing is that if you go with this top wind speed, the lowest, of course, will be in the morning. They're only topping out around 9 now. Funny enough, they are saying possibilities of 20-mile-an-hour gust in the morning. Typically, I whenever I see Windfinder show this, I always kind of, pass it off because I've kind of bid on it before and it never came to fruition. And I've always said in the morning, for multiple reasons, guys have advantage. You got fresh greens. You've got typically the softest the course is going to be, especially if it's under dry conditions. And so with all that said, I typically always try to see if there's an AM, PM flight advantage. Of course, if you play a lot of showdown and also in higher stakes showdowns, guys always load up with the morning guys. And it's kind of funny. Typically, in some of the bigger games that I play in, it's over after the first wave. Like, if you won or lost, which sometimes is not a bad thing. And then if we look at Friday, this is what kind of got me interested. Now, I kind of said that, hey, I'm not always agreeing with what, they're stating here in the morning. But if you just look at the average wind speed, they're saying up to 18 mile an hour to 40 mile an hour. Now, let's say that's half of that and it's 10 to 20. That still looks like an advantage for the guys that are going off in the afternoon. As you can see, at 5 o'clock, they're stating 2, max 3. So, and also possible rain is going to be hitting in the morning, more likely a half inch, they're stating. So with all that said, I went ahead and pulled up the guys that have early, late, so AM to PM flight advantage. And funny enough, a lot of guys that I was kind of on, a lot of my picks did not fall under this way, but there's still guys here that I'm interested in playing. But funny enough, Doug Gim. And I didn't mention that this model that I'm using is my KISS model. If you guys that are maybe new, I call that my keep it simple stupid. It's taking the larger model that I did during the preview show and really narrowing it down to 4 or 5 stroke gain categories that are the most important. Pretty much what I use on the analysis side when I showed like that sneak peek dashboards. So anyways, I got good drives at 25%, approach at 30%. That proximity that comes up almost 30% of the time at Sedgefield at 15%. Again, I mentioned the greens here are one of the course defenses. So got the putter at 15, and I put birdies at 15%. I'm looking at the last 24 rounds of golf on these guys. That's where the data is coming from. Also the last 6 tournaments. And you plug that in and calculate. And again, this is only the guys with early tee times on Thursday. Doug Kim comes up number 1. You got Eric Cole, Shane Lowry, Ches Reavie, David Lipsky, Kevin Yu, Brennan Todd, Kevin Streelman, Dylan Wu, Nick Hardy, Ryan Palmer, Nate Lashley, Nikolai Horgaard, Russell Knox, Ryan Moore, Adam Scott, and Sammy Burns to round it out. So again, that's the top 15 guys that have an early, late tee time and that are best in my kind of, like I said, simplified model, which I like to do this before kind of a last look at the guys that I'm, looking at to really hone in what I think you need to be successful. And again, that's guys that are hitting the fairways, really good with the irons, good from this proximity. Again, at least over the last 6 tournaments they played, and been doing well with the putter and birdies. Now, I'm not looking at Bermuda greens, or again, there's no filters in this data. All right, so that was a little bit. Let's go jump over. Let's go look at ownership projections, and then that's it. Then we'll wrap this thing up and get you guys out of here. Okay, so I've hopped over to Fantasy National, and as always, if you are putting any money on the golf DFS or betting and want to do your own analysis, I highly recommend this tool. That's my plug. Now let's get into ownership projections. Again, this is going to be DraftKings pricing. And if you also are new, the number that we are most concerned with is over here. How many lineups have actually been generated out of Fantasy National? And again, that's if you're doing mass lineups, you can do that. So, and then what we're going to want to focus on is this actual Fantasy National golf club, generated lineups. I think that gives us the best number, and it's pretty accurate, give or take a percent. And looks like your number 1 chalkiest player is going to be Russ Henley at 30%, was one of my picks. And I believe that they have a star next to him. Yeah, that is guys that I picked earlier in the preview show, which I had 25 of those. So if you are curious on the picks and you somehow missed that, go check out the pick show and the bet show. Okay. You got Sunjay Am coming at a 16. So again, I told you I did this last year, of course, with Tom Kim and Sunjay Am. It worked out pretty well. I've done this a couple times. I think at Shriners too, where for some reason it just seems like the Asian population, the players do very well at some of these tournaments. This is one for whatever reason that it seems like it shows up time and time again. You got Hideki, and maybe that's also just because the field is a part of that reason. Hideki coming around 25. Sam Burns, which, someone that I like. I told you guys that depending on ownership would kind of dictate if I play him. And his ownership, being less chalky than some of the other guys at the 10,000 range. I guess it's him and M that are kind of equal. I was going to play a little bit of him, so he is going to go in a few lineups. Got Adam Scott around 13, Shane Lowry at 14. My buddy Ludwig Aberg, I think a lot of people are starting to kind of figure out his game just like me. Hefty kind of price tag, and I mentioned that this guy, everything I've seen and watched, man, what an elite driver of the golf ball, distance and accuracy. But the irons are really suspicious. And around the green, his chipping I don't think is bad, but the putter is kind of up and down. But if I had to say his two strengths off the tee and putter, and the irons kind of falling, and we don't need that, that elite driving distance advantage at this course. Now, if he hits the irons great and starts making putts, he's going to be pretty deadly. But we're going off everything we've seen so far with him. JT posted, of course, past winter 2019, and had been in really good form again. He kind of did this last year towards the the late summer, and so I think everybody's kind of seeing that, and that's at 17.5. JT with his last hope needs like a top 5 or better to make it to the FedEx Cup playoffs. I think he's at 79th right now, so to move up 8 spots, he's going to have a really nice finish. Also, probably more of his concern is the Ryder Cup implications. I haven't really talked a whole lot about the Ryder Cup. I don't get into all that. I mean, I think it is what it is because, you can play some fantasy on it and you can do some kind of weak betting as far as I'm concerned. Doesn't interest me to bet, and I've always stated to get, a couple points, or a point and a half on my money. So I don't do that, but I'm sure he is thinking pretty heavily about needs a good showing because if he does not make this event, he does not get top 5 or better, he's not going to be playing golf for a while. And then it's just picking off past equity and, how do you kind of do that with those other guys in better form? You got Siwoo Kim, which, again, a Pete Dye / has done here very well. And he's coming in pretty chalky at 22%. Also, I did mention, we saw a bit, Webb Simpson, of course, mentioned it quite a bit in my preview show. When I was talking about locals, of course, he'd fit in there. Also has had a ton of success here, but he's been in just terrible form. And so I just want to make that note just if you say, well, hey, you forgot about Webb Simpson. If you wanted to put some kind of like super, crazy contrarian lineup together in the 200,000 first place game, the large GPP, put in a Snedeker and Webb Simpson, and you'll probably be pretty unique. Let's go take a look while I'm on that topic. So Webb Simpson is less than 4% owned, 3.4 right now, and Snedeker is not even 1% owned. So yeah, just if you made those two plays and you could go with all the rest of the chalk, and somehow those two guys do find past form at this course that they're very comfortable with, from a historical perspective, a couple of the best with a Siwoo Kim, yeah, you'd be sitting pretty. All right, Stefan Jaeger, I didn't pick him, but have no problem. I think I mentioned if you play him, I mean, he could do very well. Just the putter just kind of scares me with him. You got Cam Davis, who, I stated, and you can kind of see that, some of the sharp people, if you know even half a bit about golf, you know how Cam Davis is a really good ball striker, but you would think more of a bomber, and he kind of got portrayed that. But when you go back and look at where his successes have been more on strategic kind of plotter tracks like an RBC Heritage, I talked about in the preview show. So I think that is a good pick. Now, he's been pretty volatile. Had a terrible beginning of the season, but really has picked it up, I feel like, over the last couple months. Danny McCarthy is still waiting for him to get that win, and this is a perfect course for him to do it. Was one of my picks. Aaron Rye, I always kind of feel like he's kind of a condom play, a safe play where, he's going to get you the weekend. You need just something incredible to happen with his putter, which typically doesn't show up, but he has been scoring. I've even played him a little bit in ShowDown. But yeah, you can see he's a little chalky. Killer Keith actually is withdrawn from the tournament. I didn't look and see why, but just so you know, that's why he's at 1%. Benoit has had at least a good showing here and has been ball striking, masterpiece. But if you know Benoit, you just don't know what's going to happen with the putter. But I do believe, yeah, he's went with also like that belly longer putter, which seems like it's helped his game. And I talked a bit about that in the preview show, where a lot of the good ball strikers that have struggled with the putter have all made that move. And I mentioned like the Norlanders, Knox. Why am I forgetting some? Glover. I think even DeGrio. Yeah, I think even Grio switched to that. And of course, his putting stats have definitely went up this year. You got Bo Hosler, who went in Fuego at the 3M Open on Sunday, shooting, what was it, a 63? I don't know. I just remember he had like 8 or 9 birdies in a row. It was crazy. Chris Kirk should be a good fit, but he's kind of, since the win at the Honda, has been a little, I don't know, kind of hit or miss, which is kind of Chris Kirk. Everybody, I'm terrified of Alex Smalley because, like I said, I've been kind of waiting. I told you guys I bet him heavily. He's in a lot of my lineups, and just waiting for it to all explode in my face. Because when, like I said, when everything kind of says this guy should have a really good week, it sometimes goes, I guess it's just probably some scar tissue from past. Adam Hadwin should be a pretty good fit for him, but again, he's had some struggles, kind of up or down, right? I mean, the RBC Canadian had a good showing. What was the other one? I forgot now, but I think he just recently, he missed a cut at the 3M? Yeah, missed a cut at the John Deere, the Rocket Mortgage. Okay, so good showing at the RBC, good showing at the Rocket Mortgage, but has missed a couple cuts here. Looks like off the tee, which he doesn't, typically is pretty accurate, but doesn't gain a lot of distance. So that's why off the tee would be pretty low, but the irons would be the issue. And the putter here at the John Deere, which that was bent greens. What does he typically do? So funny enough, it says POA is where he said the most success. Bermuda would be last. Of course, that's what they were on, is Bermuda greens. Taylor Moore, I feel like he gets it done with his short game, and I just need a little more than Hope and Prairie. He's also got quite a bit, good length off the tee. Kind of fire, miss and fire. But yeah, funny enough, it's, look at that, he gained almost 10 strokes at the Rocket Mortgage, but has been losing the last few tournaments. And what does it show? Bermuda is his second best surface. But the guy, man, yeah, when I watch him, he has a pretty nice short game. And of course, he won, what was it, Valspar or Valero? Where did he kind of came from? I don't say out of nowhere. Valspar, yep. Those were Bermuda greens, gained 5 strokes on those, but the irons fired. And that's probably one of his better showings that we have. Okay, the Rocket Mortgage back in 2022 was his best, but the next was Valspar. All right, but not on Taylor Moore for me. Gary Woodland, nope, can't do it. I mean, this would be, I've been kind of, touch and go with Gary Woodland, but the putter's been so bad, but the ball striking has been really good. Patrick Rogers, I mentioned, had a chance, should have won the Barracuda, and not a terrible 3M. Made the cut. I got JJ Spawn. Like I said, I mean, again, everything that I'm looking for, and again, kind of a safe play, but, typically very accurate off the tee, not long, pretty, up and down with the irons, but of course, where he's done his damage and had his win was on Bermuda greens. Vincent Norman, of course, just won the Barbasol, and I think could have done a lot better at the 3M. Actually had a very good ball striking statistics, but just, lost on the putter. We can go take a quick look at that. So you see here, lost 6 strokes, but actually for a while was leading in a ball striking perspective. And let's see, where does he had a good, I'm just going to look. So the Barbasol, is that bent? Yeah, that's bent. AT&T Byron Nelson, that's bent. Gained a little bit at the Sanderson Farms. So it looks like typically his putter is the problem at times, but a good ball striker. So I don't know, hoping that he just kind of stays level, gains maybe a stroke. Of course, Akshay trying to make the FedEx Cup playoffs. I still don't understand, and I don't want to go in a long rant, but of course he won the Barracuda, and you get 300 FedEx points for that. But something about when you have temporary membership, like those, I don't know if the points don't apply. What I was hearing on the Golf Channel is that they created those 2 alternate tournaments that a lot of DP World Tour players play in. They didn't want it where if you won one of those tournaments that you instantly got in the FedEx Cup playoffs. So that's why they put that rule in. But for temporary status guys on the PGA, they should have put in like a clause that, if you've got temporary status on the PGA, you're not a DP World Tour player, that it should count and you should go. So long story short, I think it's kind of crappy. I think he's like in 90s. I think he thought, even I thought, that he was in the FedEx Cup after that win. So hopefully, he has a good showing, but he's not on my radar. I don't like his game for this course. The Barracuda, if you watch that at Keen Trace or whatever, it's kind of a tight course. I mean, I would kind of put it in the comp, but we just don't get the stroke gain data there. But if he can manage that course, you can make an argument that he could manage this, keep it in play, and pretty good with the irons. Let me go check something real quick. Yeah, it's not going to come up. And then a Barbasol, too, play that at, that's Keen Trace. Okay, so the other one was, either way, it's alternate tournaments. But, anyways, that course is tighter. Eric Cole, of course, had a chance to win at the Honda, been playing really good golf and fits kind of the profile. Now, I have seen him get a little wayward off the tee, but it seems like, let's take a look, he's kind of had some spikes. Yeah, he doesn't have the distance, so he's going to lose there. But funny enough, at the RBC Canadian, he actually gained. The irons have been firing, and the putter is exceptional with him. That's something that you're going to need here. I guess I picked Billy Horschel, which I don't really remember that, but of course he does have course history here. He also, started to show some ball striking, and hopefully, he can bring that all together. He doesn't really have a chance. I mean, if he won the tournament, I guess he'd probably be in the FedEx Cup playoffs, but that's about it. He's somewhere in the hundreds. All right, I got to move through this a little faster. Harris English, not interested. Thomas Detry. I went back to Mark Hubbard, even though he just missed the cut at a course that I thought he'd do well at. But again, he fits well, and he's kind of had these tops. Either he's pulling the old, either I'm going to win or I'm just going to go ahead and miss the cut. Glover also missed the cut to 3M, but, had amazing records, or we should say finishes at the, prior tournaments. So looking for him to get back. Svensson, I kind of hope he stays on the radar because I'm seeing his game trending back. And he, from a comp course and what he does, should be perfect. So if he putts, watch out. Pendrith, just not the guy that I'm looking for here. Kuchar could be fine, honestly. And he kind of had a little life at the 3M Open. I already talked about Webb Simpson, not playing him, but, you can make an argument if you want course history. But I've tried to make that argument a few times for Webb Simpson over the past few years, and it does not work out. Brendan Todd, I think is a perfect fit. Kind of ownership's a little higher than I was expecting. I feel like Brendan Todd always flies under the radar. Adam Schenk, I told you he, from a modeling perspective for me, was like number one, and I jumped all over it and bet him crazy. He's got the, if he comes in, it's going to be a nice year for me if somehow that happens. But again, typically things don't always work out how you think they're going to. Kevin Streelman playing a little better golf and should do well here. Norwood I got no problem with. Justin Suh, I don't know, like I said, I played him a bit in ShowDown last week, and he came through the one day, but it's so reliant on his putter, which I said you need good putters, but you also need to stay in the fairway and have good irons, and that's where Justin can have some issues. Horgaard, no, I kind of put him with almost the Ludwig Aberg, where, he's got distance, but he's a little more wild, so I don't really expect. Garrick Hago, again, more of a ShowDown play for me. The guy can definitely eagle some holes, but he can also get in some trouble. I am going to play Andrew Putnam, is at 5%. Yeah, Nick Hardy, which is a Midwest guy, which we're not in the Midwest anymore. We're in North Carolina. But anyways, no interest. Dougie Gim falls under the Asian play. And I guess showed you his, from a modeling perspective, should be great. There's Ben Griffin at 8%. We talked about him. Got Brandon Wu, a ball striker, just needs to putt once in a while. Sammy Stevens. All right, let's move through this a little faster. Ches Reavie, I'm excited about, and I bet him live actually while I was doing the show. It was Nicholas Lindheim. For some reason, I saw him getting some buzz. I don't know if it was Raza that was talking about him in a tweet. But I went through, he was a Corn Ferry. For some reason, I thought he was a DP World Tour player. He's not. He is a Corn Ferry guy who I guess got injured. Really, I didn't see anything. I mean, the Corn Ferry, whatever, had okay, finishes, but it wasn't like he was on a bunch of wins. But he's just had a ton of miscuts. But I guess he's coming off injury, but again, nothing. Now, could he go out and have a great tournament? He could, but nothing's telling me, and I don't know enough about the guy to be honest, that he should, be a shock the world kind of pick. Sam Ryder, not a bad play. He's had, ups and downs. Kind of had a nice spring, kind of fell off. Hey, Lashley, there's a safe play for you at 7,100. Guy's just been making cuts. Let's go take a look at him. Yeah, I mean, he's getting your cuts. He's not, John Deere wasn't a bad finish. RBC Canadian did miss the cut at Travelers, so he's kind of putting together like four makes. What was his best finish this year? Puerto Rico, the Sony Open, which is a good comp course, and also Bermuda. Of course, his win is on bent greens, but it is a Donald Ross course, a Detroit Golf Club. So you can make some arguments. So, I don't have a problem if you played Nate Lashley down there. I'm going back to Eckroat, and had a good finish here last year. Also is right on that bubble. And, he just missed a cut. And I feel like, everybody was all excited because he put together a couple good finishes, had a chance to win with the Byron Nelson, and then had a good Charles Schwab, which is a good comp course. It showed up at the U.S. Open, went nuts with the putter on bent there. The Travelers is what, POA? Yeah. So, yeah. Anyways, so right now I can't really figure out what he puts well on, but all right, Kevin Hughes coming in around 6%. I'm just looking at my guys now, and if I see anything that stands out, Dylan Woo's up there too at 6%. There's my Callum Tarrant. That's just a guy. I mean, I have been plugging Carson Young and Callum Tarrant. Out of the two, I like Callum Tarrant better here. Had a pretty good finish here, I think, last year. I think that's partly the reason why. Good showing at the 3M. Let's see here. Yeah, a 27th. So for his price tag, if it gets you somewhere in the 20s, that's pretty good. There's Carson Young down here at 3%. Also at a pretty good. There's my Zach Blair, less than 4%. Just should fit him. Kind of a good plotter. The putter's been hot. Been having some good finishes. My buddy Kevin Roy. Don't need his distance here, so I'm not on him. Duffner also went to that longer putter and has, gotten better. Seen anything sneaky down here? No, that's about it. The rest of them are all at like 0%, and there's nobody that I'm seeing that really kind of sticks out that I'd want to play way down here. All right, so I think that's it. You got a good understanding of where the ownership projections should be coming in. And we already talked about weather pretty in depth, so I think we're good to go. Let's wrap this thing up. All right, guys, so thanks so much again. I hope this show helps. If you were on the fence on some guys, you got to see ownership projections. You got some thoughts on, all random from Brant Snedeker to Ben Griffin, and some were, kind of course were ongoing this week. So enjoy. I know I also had some feedback because I mentioned that I might not do every event of the FedEx Cup playoffs. As I mentioned, I'll definitely do the first one. I think a lot of us are transitioning to football. I've been on that kind of mindset for a bit now, doing quite a bit of best ball and, just kind of getting the mind ready for that. And it's just, like I said, it's been a long season, man. But we'll see. We'll see how what time permits and how things works out. But I appreciate that you guys at least said, hey, we'd love you, for you to do the other one. So, worst case, maybe I'll put a quick show together for you and just to give you some help if you are going to be. So that was only a couple of people that put that in the comments. So, hey, in the comments, if you would tell me, are you going to play a ton of DFS and betting on the later stages, so the BMW and when they get to East Lake for the Tour Championship? Let me hear back from you guys, and that will actually help me also understand. But as always, do me the honor, hit that like button, share with anybody else that you know that is getting into the DFS golf world. And if you are watching this and you've not subscribed, I need that subscribe base to keep ticking, to keep me doing what I'm doing, so I appreciate that. And last but not least, follow me on Twitter/X, which I always will call it Twitter, as probably all of you will, at DFS Golf Guru, where I put out anything that I see that we need to know or any funny anecdotes. So, all right, guys. Hey, have a great weekend. Enjoy the Wyndham. It is the last event of the regular season. It's crazy how fast this went. And then we are in the FedEx Cup playoffs. And then you got some DP World Tour stuff. And then, of course, they'll be heading to Italy for the Ryder Cup, which, like I said, I'll probably try to do something for the Ryder Cup. All right, guys, take care. Have a great weekend.